All right. So I had mentioned that this is the third of seven video. Actually, it turns out there's only six. So isn't that good news for you? But anyway, so we want to continue along and talking about water. And so what we're going to do is talk about the California water projects. These are state-built projects. We move a ton of water across this state. I mentioned that our principal, um, which water regulates distribution, um, I want to point out that LA is not a place where a lot of people should live. There's not a lot of water. And the reason we have so many people here in Southern California is we move massive amounts of water from Northern to Southern California. And same with like Las Vegas. Las Vegas probably shouldn't exist out there in the desert in the numbers it does, but it's because we move water. So we want to talk about the California water projects. There's advantages to dams. We can store water. We can use it for later, and there are people who want to build more dams, build more reservoirs, but we flood areas and um, we block some of the substrates and nutrients and water that gets washed by rivers, another principle we had. And so there are advantages and disadvantages of the dam. So take a look at this. We can generate electrical power. That's a good thing. Everything has a cost. Everything has a good and a bad. So I just want to have you guys keep that in mind. So the California Water Project, there's several different ones that we're going to talk about. The Los Angeles Aqueduct, we'll talk about that one. We're going to talk about the Colorado River Aqueduct, and we'll talk about the California Aqueduct. So three ones that affect us here in Southern California. And so here are the three different ones. And in this little video, we'll talk about the first one, the LA Aqueduct. Constructed in 1908 to 1913, so the early 1900s. Again, not something I would necessarily expect you to know the date. I might use the date in the question to kind of help you, but as a hint, but it wouldn't be required to answer the question. All right, and you can see it here. Here's the, on the picture, the same picture I showed you before, the Los Angeles Aqueduct. It's a small one comparatively to the other two. And it was presented by a guy named William Mulholland. And I don't know if you've heard of Mulholland, if you've heard that name before, but what he did is he had a vision, and he started buying up property, and because he needed to run his pipelines and his aqueducts. And so by doing that, he was a very powerful, wealthy man. And you might have heard of Mulholland Drive, and that's named after him. So his name is over lots of things here in LA. The water comes from the Owens River in the Owens Valley, 200 miles north of LA. And this is runoff from the eastern Sierras. And it gets here all by gravity. There is no pumping, no electricity used. But there are dams, and those dams will generate electricity on the way down, which is good. And here's some pictures. If you ever drive, you can actually see places where you will go by, and there's usually signs up to say this is they're small, but sometimes it's in pipes, like you see in the right picture there. You can see it going up and over and dropping down a kind of a mountain. And then on the left, we also have open aqueducts, which can be issues with evaporation, also issues with contamination getting into the water, things like that. So this is bringing water to LA. So here's what I want to show you. This is Mono Lake. And I don't know if you've heard of Mono Lake before, but it is very endangered at one point. My name's sitting, or my picture's sitting over it. So Mono Lake was actually dumping. they have these tufa towers. You can see them in the picture on the right. And it's an alkaline lake. So you heard of acid. Alkaline has a high pH number, 12s, 13s. And you can see some evaporation has occurred. The level has dropped, and you can see the white, that's salt, white on the island, that's salt, and actually bird shit. It turns out that's a bird island where they can birds can breed. But the reason I bring this up is Mono Lake was destined to lose all its water. And we were draining it for the needs of LA. And so we're going to talk about a person who basically stopped it. And so anyway, I want to give you a reason of concern. So the RLC is a famous story that occurred in the Middle East, where they had a sea, and they decided to divert water mostly for crops, rice and cotton. And so you can see some aerial pictures of the sea itself. And in 1976, there is the sea. In 2016, there it is again, and you can see how much most of the water is gone. This green area means there's still some moisture there, obviously. But the 90% of the water may be gone by the year 2020. I know 2020 is really a far distance away. So that's okay. We won't see it. We'll be locked in our houses because of the pandemic. But very, very scary story on, mismanagement of water. And we were doing that to Mono Lake. And here it is, kind of drawn out. There's the island with all the bird shit on it. And just to give you a sense, this is 120 goes into Yosemite. Over summer, I went to Yosemite, and we came out this way. We had come up through Merced, but we had decided to come and visit Mono Lake. Lee Vining, right here is a mobile station with some of the best food from a gas station you'll ever get. So we stopped there. The Wo Nelly Deli is what it's called. So we stopped there for lunch on the way out. But we wanted to visit the lake. Now, they have a interpretive center that unfortunately is closed. But we walked around a bit and took a look. And the water level's in pretty decent shape right now. Not too bad. But again, we were pumping all this water south. But there's a guy, and this guy is David Gaines. And he formed in '78 the Mono Lake Committee, and he sued the state. Went to Superior Court and basically said, you can't take the water. And Owens Lake is now a dry lake bed. But Mono Lake was spared because, and I don't want you to know all the numbers, but David Gaines fought to keep it, and now it is required to keep that water level at a certain height. What was happening, and I'm going to go back to the last slide, is this island is a bird colony. And the bird colonies were disappearing because as the water level dropped, it wasn't an island anymore. There was a peninsula. The water got slow that the coyotes and foxes and things could actually walk onto the island and kill the birds. The water level now is high enough again, so that is not a problem. He died in a car crash in 1988, late at night by himself on one of those roads. And there is the conspiracy theory that, he might have been killed. It's hard to say exactly what happened. 4 or 5 years ago, I actually had his granddaughter in my class. And so I want you to think, I have the word pop on there. And during our next discussion, we'll talk about what that stands for. Obviously, he is a dad, but what does pop stand for? And we'll go ahead and stop the share and stop the recording.